What up? What up? It's Friday. What is up, people? For everybody, anybody rewatching this, getting down on these Twizzlers. Yo. Well, we made it. It's Friday. End of the week, start of the weekend. We made it. So rude for me to be on here. Smack them. I don't know how much this mic picked that up. I apologize if it's all loud. Yeah. So it's been a busy week. So I really haven't had time to do a lot of YouTube stuff. But I just wanted to do the video today. I should stop eating these because that's loud. I just wanted to do the video today just to say thank you to the people who watch my videos and give a little backstory on, my YouTube journey, what I do YouTube for, what I want to get out of YouTube, just really where I stand just in general with YouTube stuff. So first of all, thank you for supporting the channel and supporting me as a creator. There's a lot of options, a lot of people to watch, a lot of videos to watch in the YouTube space. So anybody that clicks on my video to watch my video, whether it's for 5 seconds or 5 minutes, whether it's to support me or to tell me how much you I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyone that clicks on, every person that clicks on my video and watches my video, I appreciate that wholeheartedly, because there's a lot that goes into making videos. I'm gonna touch on that here in a little bit, but there's a lot that goes into making videos. So, when you click on someone's video and you support them, you watch it, you like it, you comment, you share it, whatever, that's huge for the people that create these videos. So for every single person that takes time out of their day to listen to me talk about something or explain something, I appreciate that. I sincerely and wholeheartedly thank you for that. There would be no point in me making videos if I made these videos and they just sat out there. Not a single person ever looked at them. There'd be no point. So, for everyone that's ever tuned in, watching any of my videos, I definitely appreciate that. I originally started my YouTube channel, man, I think it was in 2015, maybe 2014. I think it was 2015. And my sole reasoning for starting the channel was because when I bought my first DSLR, which I bought that in 2012, I believe, or 2013, I can't remember. When I first bought that camera, it was a Canon T4i with the 18-55 kit lens and the 55-250 telephoto. So when I first bought that camera, I didn't know anything about DSLRs. I had kind of like higher end point and shoot cameras. But I didn't know anything about DSLRs, but I knew that I wanted to take my photography to the next level. Like, I had wanted to get a DSLR for a while and just never did it. was a little intimidated by it, just never did it. So when I bought that camera, that T4i, I didn't know anything about how to use the camera. I knew nothing about DSLRs in general and lenses and all of that stuff. I knew nothing. So I relied pretty heavily on YouTube to learn all of those things, to learn about the exposure triangle and how to use the camera and what all of those things meant. Like I was on YouTube every day when I would get home from work, and I was just soaking up the information. And then I would go out and apply it. I would do some stuff. Then I'd come back to YouTube if there was, I needed to get more advanced, or if there was something I didn't understand, I'd come back to YouTube and I would watch it. So for me, YouTube was like the university for me for learning photography stuff, like the true fundamentals of photography. So in 2015, once I got to a point where I had a really good understanding of photography, I was much better at photography than when I started. I wanted to be able to, number one, I wanted to be able to give back to the YouTube community. I'm real big on, if I take something, I need to give something too, so I don't want to just take all this information and not give something back. So that was number one. I wanted to give back to the YouTube community. But number two, and this isn't like, because especially like being a creator now, like I understand how much work goes into videos. So this definitely isn't like to knock on any of these videos. But for my style of learning and for the type of videos that I wanted, sometimes it was hard to find those videos. It was hard to find videos where someone just got to the point and there wasn't all of this fluff, or there wasn't a clickbait title. Like sometimes I spent more time trying to get the information that I clicked on that video for. And so for me, the second part of starting a channel was that I wanted to put out content that just did that. It's like if I'm talking about, the exposure triangle, I do a video and I just jump right into talking about the exposure triangle. I don't want people to have to try to dig for the information or have all this fluff where I'm just talking about nothing. So those were like my two motivators for wanting to start a YouTube channel. Now going into it, at the time I was working a full-time job, so photography was a side hustle. Going into it, I didn't realize how much effort and work it took. What's up, Chris? I appreciate that, brother. At the time, I didn't know how much work it took to really do this YouTube thing and to make videos. So, some of my earlier videos, they're not even up anymore. I was doing this project 52, where every week there was like a theme photo to do. So I was basically doing that project, and then I was recording a video every week to talk about my thought process behind the photo and all of that kind of stuff. And it was cool. But I think the biggest struggle for someone that's starting out on YouTube is that, and this was back in 2015, I feel like it's even worse now, is that you make these videos and no one watches them. They don't get any views whatsoever. If you search for the keywords that are in your video, like you could go 100 pages in, like your video doesn't come up in the searches. So it gets a bit discouraging because, you're making these videos, you're excited about the video that you made, you want to put it out there, you want people to see it, but then no one sees it, no one clicks on it. So it makes you not want to make the videos. And I fell victim to that. I did a few of those Project 52 videos. I did, my Umbrella verse softbox video, which I still get comments on that video to this day, which kind of makes me cringe because I would do that video so much better now. But after making a few videos and you don't really get that traction, you lose the motivation to want to do the stuff. And again, at the time, I was doing photography as a side hustle. So it was like, man, I'm doing my regular 9 to 5. I'm doing photography on the side. I'm trying to make these YouTube videos. Nobody's watching them. What's the point? So, after I did a handful of them, I really lost the drive and the motivation to make them. So, I fell off from my channel for like 2 or 3 years. The crazy thing is that video, that umbrella versus softbox video, throughout that whole time, people were still watching that video, and I would get notifications every other day from people commenting on that video. And a lot of my subscribers actually came from that video, which was crazy. So I would see that, and I'm just like, man, I can't believe people are still watching that video. Again, especially now, because like to me, like the video is it's just not a good video. I would definitely do it different. I want to redo it, but it'll never pick up the same traction that that video did. Um, so I fell off. So in between that, I stopped doing the YouTube thing. Then I moved to California. And when I made the move to California, that's when I decided that I wanted to do photography full time. I had, worked a 9 to 5 job for a long time. I started working when I was very young. And so, when I moved here, I just really wanted to do something different. I wasn't too fond about going back and, having a boss and not having the flexibility and all that. So I decided, that I would want to do photography full time here. And so in doing that, that's where I was just like, okay, let me go dust off this YouTube channel and bring this channel back and start making some videos. So I think that was in, 20, it was either 2019 or 2020. I know I really got heavy with doing more videos during the pandemic time because obviously we had a lot of time on our hands. So I was able to do some stuff. But, when I came back into it, I came back with a bit of a different mindset. And when I first started the YouTube channel, I wanted to grow exponentially. I wanted my videos to, go viral and get a bunch of views. I wanted to have a bunch of subs. Like that was kind of like my goal and my motivation when I started the channel. Like I wanted to help people, but I wanted to get clicks on my videos too. Like I wanted to be able to have a video and be like, oh man, I got 20,000 views on my video. That was going into it. When I picked it back up, once I moved to LA, my mindset changed. And it was more about helping people. Like I wanted to get back to the fundamental of why I started the channel in the first place, which was really to help people. Like my goal at that time wasn't for the views and clicks. It was to help people. So when I brought the channel back, that was my fundamental goal. It's like, if I only get one view on a video and that view helps that person, that's one person that I was able to help. And that makes it worth it to me. So that's really where I'm at with my channel now. Like I still continue to make content really to help people or to get people's brain going. Like my last few videos have kind of been something that I've been experimenting with, where it's not about educating people, but it's more about getting people to think and to kind of open their mind and start thinking about things in a different way. So that's kind of the fundamentals of what this channel is. It's like I do, obviously I would love to see it grow. And I enjoy when people watch the video, but at the end of the day, like I don't get too hung up on that stuff. I don't look at the analytics on my videos. I don't follow those things because I don't want my channel to become about me caring more about that stuff than what I really started the channel for, and that was to help people. So that's not to say that a year from now, 5 years from now, that the channel takes off and I'm like, yeah, I want to make money off the channel or whatever. But I hope to always stick to the core fundamental of helping people. Like that's what I want this channel to be about. I try to be very honest and transparent with everything that I say. Everything that I say, I stand behind 100%. And I understand, everyone's not going to agree with you. That's just life in general, but it's tenfold on the internet. And so, you take it with strides. And I'm human. I'm no different than the next guy. Sometimes someone will leave a comment and you'll want to respond back because we get defensive sometimes, especially when you're passionate about something. And it is what it is. I try to obviously not get too caught up in it, but you know, sometimes emotions get the better of you. Sometimes you got time for somebody. Sometimes you just feel like defending your position. Sometimes you just feel like going back and forth with somebody. But you know, being in this space, you do accept being a creator on the internet. You do accept that people aren't going to like you. Everyone's not going to like you. Everyone's not going to agree with your videos or agree with what you have to say. And you have to know that it's like you can't defend yourself with every person that doesn't agree. You know, it's like at the end of the day, someone on the internet disagreeing with me doesn't change anything in my real life. So, you know, even if I have time to go back and forth with somebody or whatever, it's because I literally have time. You know, like I'm not going to be late to a session because I'm going back and forth with somebody, you know. So that's what's up, T-Mid? You silly. So yeah, that's you know, that's the fundamentals of my channel. Now to talk about these Twizzlers are really good. Out of curiosity, are y'all fans of Twizzlers? These are the bites, so these are cherry. Regular Twizzlers are strawberry. These are that jam. Hey Chris, that's forever gonna make me laugh. That and T-Man when he was just in his last video and he made this because I'm so animated when I talk. I'm my whole family like that. But yeah, so when it comes to making these videos, I know I've talked about it before. I think Mid's talked about it on his channel. These videos, y'all, I want to break down from start to finish what it takes to do one of these videos, just to put it into perspective of like what goes into it. Now, obviously there's levels because some people will just pull their cell phone out and make a video and put it on YouTube. That's different. So I'm saying if you want to have like a quality video, let me go through the steps of what it takes. Okay. So first of all, you got to have an idea. You got to have a concept. You got to know what you want to talk about because you don't want to just have a video where you're rambling. So you're spending time either writing a script or writing bullet points or you freestyle. Now, most of my videos, all but 2 of my videos, I've just freestyled off the top of my head, which is cool. I like doing it that way because I like my videos to be more organic. But the problem with that, and the reason why there's 2 videos that I've scripted, when I freestyle, it's hard to remember like everything that you want to talk about. So sometimes I'll do a whole video. I put some stuff out there. It sounds great. And then I watch it back to make sure to find all the mistakes that I've made because I always say something wrong or whatever. And then I'm like, dang, I forgot to mention this. And that something that I forgot would have been like the main key point that I wanted to say to drive everything home. And I would have forgotten about that because sometimes like when I'm talking, like as it hits my brain, it's coming out of my mouth. Like I'm not processing nothing. I'm just going. So although I like the more organic approach, I do understand why a lot of people script their videos. And I've been for like the videos where like it's more fundamental and I'm trying to get people to think, those I've scripted because I really want to make sure like I get my points across. But I digress. So you got to figure out what you want the video to be about. So you're spending, and that's hard, y'all. Like it's hard because there's so much photography stuff out there that it's hard to even come up with something new and fresh and something that hasn't already been touched on in 100 videos already. So trying to like be innovative in thinking of your video is already some work. So, okay, boom. You have your idea of what you want to do for the video. You get your script together. So you got that. Now you got to set all your stuff up. Okay. So when I do videos, I got a light. Obviously, I'm lighting the video. So I got to pull out a light stand. I got to pull out the light. I put the light on the light stand. I got to get my modifier. I set the modifier up. I put the modifier on the light. Plug the light in. Turn the light on. Okay, boom, that's the light. Now I got to set up the camera. Got to get a tripod out. Got the tripod out. Put the camera on top of the tripod. Attach the lens to it. Okay, boom. Got my laptop to the left. Okay, get my stand for my laptop. Set that up. get the laptop, get the power cable, got that plugged in. If I'm doing these lives, I'm shooting into my laptop from the camera. So okay, now I got to pull that cable out, and then I got to get my adapter to be able to plug the camera into the computer. So okay, boom, got that. Got a mic. So I'm either gonna have my lav mic. Normally, when I record most of my videos, I got my lav mic. For these, I got a little a shotgun mic right here below me. So for this shotgun mic, it's on a stand with a boom arm. So I got to get that stand, put the boom arm, get that in. Got to plug in the audio, run the audio into the laptop. Okay, boom. And that's really, I would say that's like a simpler setup. Now, some people are fortunate enough to be able to just have their setup and they don't have to change it. I don't have that luxury. I live in Los Angeles. So although my apartment is spacious, it's not spacious enough for me to just have everything set up to where I can just, boom, come and record, just flip a switch and I'm ready to go. So every video, I have to put all this stuff up. And then when I'm done, I got to take all this stuff back down. So, okay, boom. Now you got your setup going. Okay. So you hit record, you record your video. You're going to mess up a half dozen times, like, especially when I'm freestyling. Like, if I'm freestyling, I normally try to keep the mistakes in just so that way it just keeps it easier for me. But sometimes, like, you just completely mess up. And so you constantly have to start over. If I'm scripting, I'm pretty good at doing the script. So I typically don't mess up when I do the script. I just go straight through. So regardless, okay, boom, you got to record. So that's going to take some time. You're going to have your mess up. So you get your recording stuff done. So, all right, boom, you got all this in there already right there. So then you pull all that stuff off, pull it on the computer. This is where it takes the most amount of time. Like getting all the gear set up, that takes time. Recording, that takes time. But now you got to go put it on the computer and you got to edit this stuff up, because unless you basically did one take, and that's going to be your video, just one take, just your face, that one take. That's typically not the case for most videos. Now you got to cut all that stuff together. Now, me, when I do my audio, because my audio is not going straight into the camera, I got to sync the audio. So now I got video, I got audio, got to sync that up. Then you got to cut things, because if you messed up, now you got to, and let's say you record for 40 minutes. You could have messed up 7 times. You got to find where those points are that you messed up, make your cuts, put it all together. Then you want to have your transitions. You got to do that. You want to have your B-roll or your second footage. You got to figure out where you want to put that in. You want to have your stock footage. You got to figure out where you want to put that in. You want all the graphics. You got to put all that in. It could take you 30 minutes to record a video. I kid you not, it could take you a week to edit the video. And that's not even you just messing around. It's like it literally just takes so much time to put the video together. Then you want to watch it back through. You want to make sure everything is good. Make your tweaks, do this. Then you got to export it. So then that takes time, especially if you were shooting in 4K. Well, man, I didn't even mention the amount of time that it takes to move the, like, I just started shooting in 4K. I still do these in 1080, but I'm shooting in 4K now. Takes a long time to get, 100 gigs from the card to the computer. But then when you're exporting, it takes time to export. Then once you got it export, now you got to upload it into YouTube. That's going to take some time. You got to get your description together. You got to do your tags. You got to do your title. You got to do your thumbnail. All these things that from start to finish, it literally could take you 2 weeks just to get a video up, because there's so much involved in it. So I really say all that to say that it's like when people invest that kind of time and energy into a video, and that video doesn't get any traction, it doesn't get the views, it doesn't get any interaction. That's why it's deflating for a lot of creators, because you put so much time into it. And a lot of times it'll be the video that you think is like the best video you have ever done. Like you put so much into it. When you watch it back, you're looking at it like that proud parent moment. Like you're just like, yes, this is a masterpiece. You're like, this is going to do good. People are going to love this video. And then you put it out there and you get nothing. You get nothing. It's deflating, like as a creator. And so that's why for me, like I've gotten to the mindset to where I remember why I started a YouTube channel. And that's why I am so appreciative of the people that watch my video, that interact with my video, especially the people that I see, you know, in every video. As creators, I can't even express how much we appreciate that, because there's so much work that goes into this that at least, you know, there's someone out there that appreciates what you're doing. And it's kind of like, you know, when you work at a job, you don't expect to get a pat on the back every time. You know, you don't expect people to throw you a party for doing your job. You know, that was always like a gripe of mine, where it's just like, you know, people want to be congratulated for doing what they're paid to do. You don't need that pat on the back every time, but it is good sometimes, you know, every now and then, for someone to come up and just be like, yo, you did a great job, man. Like, you know, that was awesome. Like, it feels good. And it's like, just that little bit keeps you going until you get that next one. And that's really what, like, the interaction on YouTube is. Like, as creators, when we see, especially like those loyal supporters that are always there for our videos and when we go live and that sort of thing, when we see that, please know this, like, we take notice of that. Like, we recognize the names, like, we recognize the people that we see on a consistent basis. And it does mean a lot to us, because there's just so much behind the scene that people don't know about. And so it's nice to know that people appreciate that. It's, you know, it's the same with like photo sessions too. Like, you know, clients, they have no idea like how much work goes into that. So I know I've been ignoring the comments over here. Uh, do you see your channel as a long-time investment or a mission to give back to the community? That's a great question, Sebastian. That's a great question. Honestly, I see it as both, to be very transparent and honest. My fundamental core thing about this channel, as I said, is to give back. But like long term, my big vision for this channel is really to build a community to where I can start offering workshops and doing in-person sessions and that sort of thing. Like, I really want to connect and resonate with an audience enough to where I can do those sorts of things. Like, I know, like, a lot of people monetize their channel and you can make money off of the channel in and of itself. And that's totally fine. Like, I definitely think I will explore that at some point. But like, my goal isn't to make all of this money off of monetization, because I don't know that I would want to do what it takes to make videos to get me to a point where I'm making like a ton of money just off of the monetization. But I definitely, long term, I do want this to be where I can do those workshops, or I can do ebooks or something of that nature, and there will be a market and an audience for it. I think long term that will be, and because those are things that I would enjoy doing. You know, it's like I like being in group settings. Like, that's why, like, it's tough for me right now with the pandemic, because like I've been trying to find photography meetups here in LA, and there's a ton of them, but they're all online. And it's like, I just, you know, I don't particularly like, I like just being in person. I like just that whole camaraderie of that. So long term, yeah, my vision would be that I turn this into a place where I have an audience that has built trust in me, and I can offer products and services that would be beneficial to my audience. That would be my long term vision for this channel. So let me just say, if you haven't checked out, T-Mid dropped a video today with it was a panel of us, him, myself, Ryan, Troy, and SJ Square Photography, and we were talking about does gear matter, or is knowledge king? So if you haven't seen that on T-Mid's channel, go check that out, because you're probably going to feel strongly about it one way or the other. So definitely go check that out. It's interesting. I won't get into like that video or that topic because there's no point. But I do want to say, like, in the photography space, something that is frustrating for me, and I'm sure this far extends well past photography, but this is a photography channel. So something that really frustrates me with photography is that everything, when it comes to a conversation, a discussion, or a debate, has to be so black or white. Like, it's hard for people to accept, understand, or agree that things aren't always this side or that side. A lot of stuff in photography, it's really more in the middle, where it's like it's a little bit of this and it's a little bit of that, and you put it together and then you have something great. It's like if you're baking a cake, you have all your ingredients. It's like no one ingredient is significantly more important than the other, because that ingredient by itself isn't going to make the cake. Yeah, you need flour. Someone would argue that, oh, well, without flour, you have no cake. That is the most important ingredient. I guess I don't look at things that way, because it's like, yes, if you didn't have the flour, you couldn't make the cake. Whereas if you didn't have, some other ingredient that was a smaller portion, you could technically still make the cake. That is true, but that's getting so granular and detailed with it that it's like, it's almost like you're saying that just for the sake of arguing. It's like, yes, you can make a cake without that, but then the cake isn't good. So it doesn't even matter. It's like, yeah, you can make the cake, but if it's not a good cake, who cares? And I think in photography, a lot of times when you have discussions with people, people are so passionate in their belief that it's hard for people to see that it's like everybody can be right. Like, it isn't this thing where it's like, oh, it's this way and this is how it is. But if you're over here, you're completely wrong. And if you're over here, you're completely right. I don't agree that it is like that in most cases. And I've definitely found where it's like when you have conversations about anything photography related, not even just gear. I mean, gear really gets people going, but really anything photography related. If you start talking editing stuff, if you start talking retouching stuff, anything, people get so passionate that it's just like, well, it doesn't have to be one way or the other. And then it's like, well, if you don't agree with someone or you say one thing, then people take that one thing and turn that into your whole entire argument. So if I go back to like the cake reference, it's like, oh, well, you said cinnamon is important. So what you're saying is that without cinnamon, no one could ever make a cake. And it's like, no, like that's not what I'm just saying. I'm just saying, like, if you're making a cake that the key taste of it is cinnamon, you need cinnamon. But people will hang on that and just say, oh, no, you're saying cinnamon is the most important ingredient in cake. What's like in any cake you make, you got to, if you don't have cinnamon, you can't make the cake. And it's like, you can't, you can't win. So that's frustrating to me, because I enjoy, and see, this is what, like, I feel like sometimes, a lot of times, like, things get misconstrued and it bothers me, because I enjoy having conversations with people, because I've learned a lot from hearing other people's perspectives. As a creative, as a photographer, as a person, I don't know everything. And even the things that I think I know, I haven't seen it from every perspective. So maybe there's something out there that can make me think about it or look at something differently that I've never thought of before. So I enjoy having conversations with people to be able to get their perspective. The problem is people will portray that as arguing or debating, when it's like, well, in order for me to understand where you're coming from, I have to ask questions. It's like, if you say something and I don't get it, I'm not going to get it unless I ask questions. To me, that's not arguing, that's asking questions. So if someone says, for example, gear doesn't matter. Well, why do you feel that way? Because of this. Okay, but that's not, like, to me, that's not arguing. That's just trying to understand someone's perspective, someone's point of view. And that's huge to me, because again, I have learned so much from asking questions and just having conversations with people, where it's like, man, I never thought about it that way. Yeah, you got a really good point there. So that's where it's tough with me, like in the photography space sometimes, because I've seen that, like, in the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, I don't even interact in those groups much anymore, because you say something and things get so twisted. And I know, like, that's just the nature of texting, essentially. You know, it's like you never have a serious conversation over text because things get misconstrued all the time. But I just don't think it needs to be that way. I think people should just be a little bit more open-minded to at least try to understand where someone's coming from. You may not agree. You know, it's like we can have a conversation and you can state all your points and I can still say, yeah, I don't agree with that and here's why, and we can agree to disagree. But you know, in photography space, we need more of people understanding that it's not so black and white. And it's like on YouTube, it's the worst. It's the worst. It's like you're on one side or the other. And it's just most times I'm in the middle. And that's how I am about politics. And I'm definitely not going to dive too deep into politics. But in the same way with politics, it's like, you know, you don't have to be this or that. Like you can look at each individual issue and make an assessment off of that issue. That's how I am with photography. It's like I'm not one way or the other almost ever. It's like, well, let me just look at this situation. Here's how I feel for that situation. So anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. I am curious though, how do you guys feel about retouching? I think I kind of touched on retouching in one of the videos that I did. And the responses were interesting. I'm curious how you guys feel and why you guys are telling me how you feel. And I'm only asking because it's been on my mind the past few days. So I'm just curious what people think, just to see what other people's thoughts are. Maybe I talked about it on my last live because I feel like I went on a rant about about retouching. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to dive back down that again. But you know, retouching has a place. Let me say that retouching has a place, and there are people that are really good at retouching. I am not one of those people because I don't retouch a lot, so I am not very good at retouching. But there's a place for retouching. That place, however, to me, I wish there wasn't a place for retouching. I wholeheartedly feel that we should live in a world where everyone is comfortable in their own skin. And before I even say anything else, and you know, I'm not going to say you could ask people that know me because you're not going to be able to ask people that know me. But I've long said I wish makeup wasn't a thing. I wish that makeup would go away. Like I don't feel that we need to have makeup. But to me, like I feel like retouching, even when you look at it from like the beauty side of images or magazines, my biggest gripe with retouching is that it basically says that this is the definition of beauty, attractiveness, sexiness. You know, it's like if your skin isn't flawless, then it's a problem. That's essentially when we retouch things, that's what we're saying. You have this mark or your skin is discolored. If we don't fix it, it's a problem. Because if we didn't think that way, we wouldn't fix it. Now, pause, because I know y'all might be feeling some kind of way. Society-wise and socially, I get it. You know, it's like if you post pictures, no makeup, skin discolored, acne, whatever, society-wise, like that's not accepted. I get that. And that's the fundamental problem. Like that's the base problem is that, you know, we expect people to look flawless. And if you don't, it's a negative. When the reality is none of us look flawless. Like no one in real life is flawless. But yet if you put yourself out there, if you have any of these imperfections, and they shouldn't even be called imperfections because they're not, they're just us, they're human. Like it's just, that's how we are as people. If you put something out there, then it gets destroyed. You know, now I'm not a fan of the Kardashians. I don't like them one way or the other. I'm very impartial and neutral with the Kardashians. But I bring them up just to show how crazy the spectrum is on that, to the point where not only do you have these women that are constantly changing things about themselves to try to get the approval of other people, but if a photo leaks that hasn't been retouched or hasn't been altered, it's a news story. When you're seeing things that are natural. Every time I see an article where they're pointing out, you know, some girl's cellulite or her stretch marks or this, that, and the other, it seriously makes me sick to my stomach, because it's just like, those are natural things. Like, the human body is a crazy thing already. Those are natural things. Like, as you get older, your skin isn't as tight. When you have kids, you're, as someone that has worked out for many years, like, I have stretch marks because your body changes. You're big one year, you lose a little size, your skin loses its elasticity. Like, these are just normal things of being a person. So when retouching is like so big of a thing, essentially what we're saying is, it's like, oh, you need to be flawless. If you're going to present yourself, you need to be flawless. And people will say, well, yeah, that's just the way beauty is. Or that's the way, you know, if you're doing, you know, some sort of campaign, like, that's how it has to be. True, from a professional side of it, but from a humanity side of it, that's terrible, because it shouldn't be that way. So me personally, like, I'm in a lot of ways, I'm against retouching, but I understand that it's necessary, you know? So it's like, and see, this is where it's like, if I have this conversation, somebody would be like, well, have you ever retouched? Yeah. Well, then you can't, then what are you talking about? Because you've retouched before. It's like, I can feel that it's wrong. It doesn't mean, you know, it's like, there could be something that my client wants that it's like, I don't want to do this, but, you know, if the client wants it and it's not something that I'm morally or ethically against, I'm going to do it. A client may want a pose that I think is the dumbest pose ever, but if they absolutely want that pose, sure, I'm going to do the pose. I'll never post it, but I'm going to do the pose. So for me, like, retouching, it's like, I feel the same way. It's like, it's something that as photographers we have to do because our clients expect it or they want it. But me as a photographer, I hate it every single time I see it, because it's just perpetuating this unattainable standard. And when you, I don't know if you guys have ever, and I'm telling you, it'll break your heart. I don't know if you guys have ever been around a teenage girl that is bawling her eyes out because she doesn't look like the girl on Instagram and she's getting made fun of at school. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but I have. And it absolutely will break your heart, because you know that the people that she's looking at, that she wants to be like, she wants to look like these people, you know that they don't look like that they've had so much done to that photo that they're so far from real life that it's not funny. But you have this little girl that is crying because she doesn't look like that. And then you have a little girl that's going to turn into a young adult that's going to go have work done and going to have surgeries done because she feels like that's what she needs to look like to be accepted by society. That is why I have a big problem with retouching, because we are perpetuating that. And I'm not trying to get like super deep in this conversation, but it literally is something that bothers me to my core, because I want to be in a place, live in a world where we just accept us for us, where we don't have makeup, we don't need retouching, we don't need surgeries to change who we are. We can all just be accepting of us and everything that brings. And I don't know that I'll probably never see that in my lifetime. And I know that I'll probably never see that. But as a professional photographer, I can, with 100% sincerity, tell you this. I very, very, very strongly urge my clients to keep things as natural as possible. It's like, I can't change the way retouching is and how big it is in the world today. I can't change that. I can't change, you know, the expectations of a lot of people. But the clients, the people that I work with, I can't even tell you how many times I stress to them just how beautiful they are, just how they are. And they don't need to be elaborate. They don't need to do all this crazy stuff. And every client that I'm meeting for the first time, I always tell them, I don't do crazy edits. I don't do crazy edits. So if you're wanting that, if you're wanting to look like you're in a magazine, I'm not the photographer for you, because I don't do it. And I've said that before. And I've had people say, well, that's dumb because you're a professional photographer. Just sub it out to someone else and get your money. That's what people say. And now, again, like, I'm not, this is no knock on anybody. Like, I'm not, no one's in my mind. I'm just speaking from my heart. I don't do that because morally, for me, like, there's a lot of things that you could do for money, but you don't. You know, people can be like, okay, well, go out and prostitute yourself to make some money. You're not going to do it because you're like, no, like I'm against that. Like, I'm not going to do that. For me, taking that client and shipping that off to a retoucher just to get the money is no different to me. It's like I don't want the money that bad to where I'm going to do something that I don't agree with. It's like I can't change that retouching is a thing, but I can certainly decide if I'm gonna also or if I'm gonna offer that to my clients. I can definitely decide that, and I can say, hey, if that's what you want, that's fine. I'm okay not taking your money. That's fine. Um, let's see here. All right, let me get caught up on all these because I just started talking because I definitely that one's tough for me. I think heavy retouching is okay mostly for advertisement photos. You know, that's the standard, Sebastian, but even that it bothers me because I wish that it didn't have to be that way. I look at retouching as an artistic expression. Sometimes it's just to make your work different than the next. Now, TJ Fox, that is a great perspective. That 100%, that is a great perspective. You know, from an artistic point of view, I see that wholeheartedly, and I have that. That's totally valid. I mean, that's no different than you doing some sort of edit that's in what's the word? I can't remember how they call it, but when it's like not real world like, it's more fantasy or whatever. I see it being the same as that. So that's a very good point. Someone reads so much that you barely recognize yourself. That photo loses value. You can't tell your grandchildren it's you on it because it would be a lie. 100%, Sebastian. 100%. They want that flawless retouch with that Walmart portrait price. That is also very true. Now, see, I fortunately don't deal with that because my clients know up front that I'm not doing that crazy retouching, but I definitely have heard from colleagues and just people that I know in general that it's like, I think that goes back to people don't realize the amount of work that it takes. Like my boy Ryan, like he'll spend 2 hours on one photo to retouch and it looks phenomenal. It looks great, but that's a lot of time for just one picture. My number one client is my daughter, and she must hate that I leave applesauce on her face. I know, T-Man. I did. You know me, man. You know me. That's interesting, Chris, because the editing that I do, like what I tell my clients is, I said, I'm not going to do crazy retouching. I don't do crazy retouching, but I do adjust things so that they don't draw attention. Because when you're talking to someone, you're focusing, like you're either looking at their eyes, if you're like me, or you're looking at their chin, or you're focusing on something. Like you're not like analyzing their whole face as they're talking to you. Like you're focused on something. So when you're talking to people in person, number one, you're not that close, first of all. But second of all, like you're not focusing on every little aspect of their face. But in photography and in photos, that's exactly what you're doing. Like your screen is like right here. If you're on your phone, you're zooming in, like you're picking apart every little thing. So I do tell my clients, like, I'm not going to do crazy retouch, but I will minimize things so that they don't draw attention. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm trying to keep it natural in the sense of, I don't want people to notice. Like, a lot of times, and this is very common, if you do photography, especially if you do headshots, you'll see that most people's eyes are not the same. Like, one eye is often bigger than the other, and they're not straight. They're not, I mean, the variance of eyes is crazy. And the more headshot stuff you do, the more you'll see that it's like eyes are some funny looking things. But you never notice that when you're just talking to people. But if you do a headshot, people will notice that. So when I edit my headshots, I fix those things. I try to even out the eyes to make them more even because I don't want people to notice that to the point where now when they see that person in person, like they're trying to like see these mismatched eyes and crooked eyes and all that stuff. So someone could argue like, oh, well, that's not them. It's not natural. You just went on a whole rant about retouching and you're changing someone's eyes, did that and the other. It's like at the end of the day, it's like I want my client to be happy. It's like I don't, it's something that it's so minimal that you wouldn't even know that I did it unless I showed you a before and after. And it's enough to the point where, again, it's just taking that focus away from it. So I do things like that to reduce things. But like when I see like pictures of a headshot of a 60-year-old woman and her skin is flawless and she has no wrinkles, that's ridiculous. Like she's 60. She's going to have wrinkles. Like she's been on this earth for 60 years. Like those wrinkles, like that's experience. Like they should be there. Don't get rid of them. You can minimize them. Really what you should be doing is lighting it in a way to where you don't really see them that much anyway. That's what a good photographer would do. You're shooting an older person, light them in a way to where you fill in those shadows so you don't have to do much work. But anyway, some people don't have the time or motivation to acquire the self-image they want, but have the dime to have it created digitally. Man, that is true. That is true. I would man, I would love to change that, but that definitely is true, 100%. I don't mind editing a photo, but the only retouching I'm doing is white balance for skin tone, and that's it. So true. That goes with a lot of things. Composites, man. I'm going to be doing a video on composites for headshots because sometimes clients will want a environmental portrait, but you know they can't go to that location. So I'm going to do a video on if you're going to do a composite, how to do it. Because see, the problem with like a lot of composites is that people will take a background picture that doesn't match the perspective, the angle, the focal length, the lighting of the person. So our eyes and our brain it's advanced and it'll notice that stuff. Like you can't shoot the person with an 85 and then put a 35 mil background behind them. It's not going to look right. Or you can't take a portrait, a headshot of the person where your camera is here, and then you do a background where the camera was down here pointing up. Like those things, they're not going to match, you know? So it's like you have to match the two to make it believable. So at some point I want to do a video on that only because I just had to do that with the headshot. But I don't know when that's going to come out. Does it take you a lot of time to convince clients that they look great natural? That is also a great question. I don't know that I'm always successful. Okay, I'll be honest, because some people are very self-conscious and it's like essentially a stranger saying like, oh, you're beautiful. You know, the problem with like all these motivating websites and social media pictures and stuff where it's like, if no one told you today that you're beautiful, let me tell you you're beautiful. And it's like, you've never seen me. You don't know anything. So I'm not always successful. Like sometimes there's still a little bit hesitant, but I could tell you what I do is I basically just become their biggest cheerleader for the whole shoot. And I amp them up. Now, of course, I do it professionally, but you know, I amp them up. If there's something that they're just like, oh, I just think I look so awkward in photos, you know, as we're doing the photos, I'm like, that's great. That's great. Hold that. Perfect. You make them feel good because even if they're still self-conscious, they at least in those moments, they feel like they're doing something right. And then if you do a good job, once you show them the photos, then that solidifies it. So it's like you amp them up, then you show them good photos. Now they feel really good. Once you get to that point where you build up their confidence, you typically have them at that point. So that's really the assignment, is to get them feeling confident. Once they feel confident, it's pretty good. Do you offer any type of mentoring? I don't at the moment, but you know, big picture, I definitely want to at some point. What's up, Ryan? You become a woman's cheer? Yes, yes, because women need that more than you would believe. Engagement is key in building confidence in a client. Absolutely. But I would say it's the right kind of engagement, because I've shadowed photographers and I've seen work where I don't think that they go like, listen, when you're hired to do photography stuff, there's a line of professionalism that you need to make sure you stay on the right side of. And we obviously want to amp up our clients and we want to tell them that we look good, that they look good. But there's ways to go about doing it, right? It's like never would I be on a session and I'm just like, oh, that is sexy. That's hot. That's hot. You look hot. Because I don't find that to be professional. This is just my opinion, of course. Obviously, like if there's someone here that y'all would say that, that's y'all and that's y'all's clients. That's totally fine. But for me, I don't find that to be professional. So I would never say that. I say that to my girl when I do photos with her. But for clients, I don't speak that way. So I typically would say more of the lines of that looks great. That pose looks great. Perfect. Things of that nature where I'm not speaking to how they necessarily look physically, but how they look in general, if that makes any sense. So I think that's more important than anything because unfortunately, photographers, especially, well, male photographers, really, I don't even know that this is a problem for female photographers. Male photographers have gotten a really bad rap because at the point that DSLR professional cameras became so accessible, you have just everybody going and buying a camera, saying that they're a photographer just so that they can get girls to take their clothes off and take pictures. And there's been so many high profile cases of photographers that have, done inappropriate things on sessions, have sexually assaulted people, have, tried to get them to just do nude stuff when they didn't really want to do it. So a lot of female clients, female models are very skeptical of male photographers already as it is. And they probably go into the session thinking this guy's probably a creep, but let me see. So how you talk to your clients, especially if they are clients, obviously if you're, doing it as a hobbyist or, you're doing it for whatever else, depending on who it is, I mean, these would still apply, but it's just important to talk to them as professionals, as clients, and not get too loose with amping them up, if that makes sense. How do you approach the client when she is not good with posing? Sebastian, you're bringing all the great questions. So I'll be the first to say, I am not great at posing people. It is not one of my strong suits. It is something that I strive constantly to get better at. I'm not very good at posing people, but I'm also not the photographer that really wants to pose people. I always go back to like thinking when I was a kid and I would go get pictures taken and they would put me in this position. It always felt weird to me because I was just like, I would never do, like, I wouldn't sit that way. I wouldn't have my body that way. I wouldn't have my head that way. So as a photographer, I don't like the idea of posing people because I don't want people to look back on pictures and instead of thinking about how good the picture is, or instead of thinking about how fun the shoot was or how memorable it was, they're looking at the picture and thinking about how they would never sit like that, or they would never stand like that, or they would never put their hand like that. I don't want that to be the thoughts that are going through my client's mind. So I'm not big on posing and I'm not good at it anyway. And maybe I'm not good at it because I don't like to do it. But where even not posing, it's like, why I still can't just let my client just show up and just do whatever they want, because a lot of times like the clients have no idea what to do. So I like to look at it more of I direct and not pose. And so if I have someone that's not taking my directions very well, what I try to do is to work through it. So instead of saying like, nope, that's not right. Now I will say like if I'm shooting with someone that I know, because like if my girl was to watch this video, she'd be like, you don't do this with me. If it's someone that I know, it's different. I'll be like, no, like you messing up. But that's because I know them. But as clients, I shoot through it. So if I'm like, okay, just turn a little bit to the left and just pop your hip out a little bit. If they don't do it enough, I'll take a couple shots knowing that they're trash, or I'll pretend to take a couple shots. And then I'll say, okay, stick it out a little bit further. Okay, let's get a little bit more. Let's just see how it looks. So I basically just try to work through it that way to get them to where it needs to be. The biggest thing I'll do is I'll show them, because I'm not great at I'm not always great at explaining like what's in my head. So I'll try to show them. But I'm not flexible. Like I can't pose for nothing. Like like even when I'm trying to show them, like I still can't even do it the way that I'm like trying to get them to do it. Um, so typically, I'm going to try to show them, and then when I'm telling them, like I'm just going to shoot through it, and eventually we get there just by like making like adjustments. We get there. And if they just absolutely don't get it, I move on. And I think that's where I've evolved as a photographer, because I would say like when I first started doing photography, if they weren't getting it, like I would just fixate on it. I'm like, no, like I need this shot. Like we have to get this shot. And I would spend 20 minutes trying to get it, not knowing that I was killing the whole session. Because when you spend 20 minutes trying to get a shot, you are killing their confidence. And at that point, you've lost them. I didn't realize that like when I first got into the game, like I was just like, I would have this vision of this shot that I wanted, and I didn't want to stop until I got it. Where I'm at now as a photographer now is I understand that sometimes the vision that I have, I'm not going to be able to pull that out of every client. So you just have to move on. You just have to accept that, nope, that's not going to work, and you move on. And I do that pretty quick these days, because again, like the more you try to get someone to do something and they don't do it right, then you start losing them, because then they're like, oh man, I'm messing up. I can't get, you don't want that. So I'll work through it. And if it doesn't work, I move on. Most none of us three are great at posing. Now, Sebastian, I'll say this though. I feel like it's a little different when you are working with people that you know. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain this very well, but I almost feel like when it's people that you know. Okay, so let me backtrack. Like if you were in a situation where you had to make a fool out of yourself, I'm not saying like photography is that, but if you was in a situation where you had to make a fool out of yourself, you typically will feel more comfortable doing it in front of someone that you don't know and may never see again than doing it in front of your friends or family. So a lot of times I found that it's more challenging to work with people that you know and that you're close with, because if you're trying to get them to do something that they don't feel comfortable doing, they're less likely to want to do it because they're around you all the time, they see you all the time, and it just feels more weird. So yeah, clients are typically more likely to do something I'm asking them to do than, when I shoot with my girl and I'm like, yeah, do this. And it's, it's something that doesn't feel comfortable or natural to her. Like, I feel like she's less likely to do it with me, but I don't know. Some people are probably different than that. Some people might feel more comfortable doing it in front of people they know than strangers. But I typically don't really have that problem with clients. I mean, when I go into a session, my only rule for a session, and I say this with every session that I go into, I say my only rule is that you don't think. And I say, if I ask you to do something and you feel like you look silly, then you're breaking my rule, because that means you're thinking about it. So, going into it that way, I tell them just do it. If it feels stupid or it looks ridiculous, who cares? It's like, we'll move on and we'll go to the next thing. It doesn't matter. And so typically in telling them that, they're normally going into it pretty loose, pretty comfortable, because once you tell people that, it's like, look, I don't have any expectation here. It's like, we're just going to get great photos, and there's going to be some not great photos along the way. Then, they typically are pretty good at just doing whatever and just having fun with it. As long as we have a good laugh, then she feels comfortable and look great. Yep. Yeah, if you can get your client to laugh, that's a great thing. And it's not easy. Now, I don't know who does photography professionally or just even hobbyists, but one of the most uncomfortable things about photography is when you have a client that does not have any personality. I've had clients where it's like, no matter what I do, what I say, like I just can't get a smile out of them. I can't get, like, my jokes fall flat. My humor, which I wouldn't even say I'm the funniest guy in the world by any means, but it's like I try and it's like it goes nowhere. Those are some of the hardest sessions, because when you can't even lighten them up to just even give you a smile, man, it's hard to get great photos out of them. And when you're hired to produce, that is, I would say that's probably one of, as a portrait photographer, that's probably up there top 3 most stressful situations to be in as a portrait photographer, is just having a client that is very dry and dull. Because like I talk a lot, I'm loud, I'm animated. So when you take me and then you put me with someone that is the complete opposite, it's tough for me, because I don't know how to get through to that person. Like, I don't know how to really connect with them, because if everything I try falls flat, I'm kind of just like, I don't know what to do. So then at that point, it's just like me, I'm just taking pictures and just like praying that I get something good. So thankfully that doesn't happen a lot, but it definitely has happened, and it's definitely very stressful. So man, so what I'm going to dip off here in a little bit because I got some stuff to do, but I am curious, what are you guys doing for Thanksgiving? What are the Thanksgiving plans? I compliment just enough. Yep, you got to find that sweet spot, man. That's for sure. Because you start, man, if you compliment them too much, they'll start to see through it, and you actually have the reverse of what you think, because it gets fake. It's like when you have like that person that's just always like, oh, you look so good, you look so, and like every time they see you, and 50 times throughout the night, they're like, oh, you look so good. It gets to a point where you're just like, okay, I get it. Like, stop being fake. A tickle policy. Man, I'd be too scared to do that here in Sue Happy, California, man. I mess around, go tickle somebody and get sued. Yeah. I've never done that. Even if I do family stuff, and I don't do a lot of family stuff because it's just not my strong suit, really. Like, I'm good with kids, but I'm a little, yeah, when it's other people's kids, like I feel a little weird about it, because it's just like, if it's not someone's kids that like I know, or they're not family, I don't know, I'm just weird with other people's kids. So I typically don't do I don't do a lot of family stuff. I definitely don't market for it, and I don't do a lot of it because I just don't really enjoy it. But even the family stuff that I've done, like, yeah, I won't tickle the kids. I'll have the parents or someone else that's there do it. I wouldn't do it because I don't want that liability. I was joking. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Because we don't. It's just, times are different, man. We don't live in the same world that we used to. So nowadays it's like, yeah, you mess around, go and do that, and someone will be saying you assaulted their kid or something. So that is that. So while I'm waiting on y'all to tell me what y'all doing for Thanksgiving, and do I get a plate? 2022, like, I am hoping to do some changes with the channel. I've been experimenting with some things. I want to get to a point where I'm putting out consistent content, but also want to make sure that I'm putting out content that is useful. And that's that's a bit hard, because it's like people want different stuff. It's like, if I'm putting out like how to do something, if you're already a photographer, you probably already know how to do it. So it's like that type of video is not going to cater to you at all. But I enjoy making content like that. So I definitely want to continue to put out content like that, but also want to start doing showing portrait sessions. I have long got requests for that for the longest. And I think there's probably a lot of people that watch me on YouTube that think that I don't actually do photography because they never see it on my channel. So they probably question if I'm really even a photographer. The struggle for that is, number one, like, I don't feel comfortable recording client sessions. It just, number one, like I would have to get the approval from my client, but I don't even want to bring that request. I really don't want to ask my client, hey, do you mind if I record your session and put it on YouTube? That's just, yeah, it just would be weird to me. So I don't record client sessions. And then when it comes to TFP sessions, uh, it's been a bit of a struggle to even find models to shoot here in Los Angeles. It was a lot easier in Columbus. It's hard here. People would think like, oh man, there's so many models. But the problem is I'm not big on social media. If you guys have looked at my social media, you'll see, I mean, like on my main business profile, I haven't posted since March. On my Anthony Toglife, I've been doing the reels, but I really don't post anything on there either. Because I don't post a lot of non-client stuff, and I haven't had a ton of non-client stuff here because again, it's hard to find models that will want to work with you when you don't have the Instagram clout, and I definitely don't have that clout, and I'm okay with that. So I definitely want to bring that to the channel in 2022. Okay, Ryan, I'm about to cut this. I definitely want to bring more photo shoots to my channel. Absolutely. That is my goal. That is probably my number one goal for 2022 is to bring more BTS photo shoots to the channel. It's going to be a bit of a struggle. Right now, I'm looking for a agency that I can just book models for this stuff. But I want to find an agency that's because like a lot of the agencies here are just, they're like high level, like big time fancy agencies. And I don't want them because that's not worth the investment to get like some model that's $125 an hour or something like that. So I need to try to find like a kind of more like an agency that's like bringing in people that are just getting into modeling or something. But that's definitely what I want to do. You know, I want to bring more of that. And then I want to bring more like vlog style. So my boy Ryan, he just started doing that on his channel. And I love it because I've wanted to do that for a long time. But every time, like if I go somewhere and I'm like, I'm going to vlog this. Like I just went to Columbus to meet up with the guys. I was supposed to vlog that whole trip. I didn't vlog at all. My mind just doesn't go there. So I want to try to do more vlogging, day in the life stuff, just to kind of show like what it's like to be a photographer and, you know, doing all these things that we do as photographers. So I want to bring more of that to the channel. And then I want to still have, you know, my content where I'm, you know, bringing tips, tricks, and all that kind of stuff. So that's my plan for 2022. And I'm working out some things now to figure out how to do that in a way where I can work that into my schedule. But that is the plan. No Thanksgiving in Poland, huh? Not because we're so unthankful nation. It's funny. Photo critiques. Hassan, you know, my issue with photo critiques is that I don't know that I want to open up myself to the criticism that comes with photo critiques. Not that I can't take it, because I can. I don't care what people think. I can take it, but it would have to be, yeah, I don't know. That's tough because I do like critiquing because it lets you see other perspectives of things. But I don't know, when I watch photo critique stuff, especially like when the people who submit the photos can somehow interact with the people who are doing the critiquing, I feel like everyone gets so defensive. And I don't understand the point of like submitting work to be critiqued if you're just going to get defensive on what the person is saying. You know, it's like the whole point, in my opinion, of getting a photo critiqued is to get someone else's perspective or point of view on your image. It doesn't mean that you have to do what they're saying to do, or that if they say something isn't right, that it really isn't right. But the whole point is just to get that perspective to have you thinking about things in a different way. So I would love to be able to do that, but I don't know if I'm going to dive into that or not. I mean, if I were to do it, I would definitely, obviously, only do it for people who are submitting something to me to critique. But yeah, I'm not sure. You know, I'm honestly not sure. I would never want to come off like, you know, the way I see it is the way that it should be, but I don't know. I'll definitely keep that in mind. I'll definitely keep that in mind. Agnetha, how's it going? How would you compare DSLR to mirrorless, and how long did it take you to go from DSLR to mirrorless? Man, I've definitely touched on this so many times because I'm so I love mirrorless. Like the autofocus with mirrorless is a game changer. Like it is. Like that's not even debatable. It is. Like especially when you're shooting with Sigma glass wide open, there's no competition between DSLR and mirrorless in that aspect. And this is coming from a guy that would invest 2 or 3 hours of time every time I would get a new lens to micro focus adjust that thing to try to get it perfect. And it still wouldn't be perfect. So there's no comparison there. Like mirrorless absolutely trumps DSLR in terms of focusing. But where it really helps is that when you take away the component of focusing, which is, when you think about it, one of the most important components, right? Because it doesn't matter if your light is good, doesn't matter if your pose is good, your composition is good. If the whole picture is out of focus, you have no picture. So by taking away the focus part of it, it frees up so much of your attention and energy into composing the shot that you just can't compare the two. Like with DSLRs, number one, like your focusing is always like right in the center, you know. So it's like if you want to have something on the outer edges of your frame, you got to focus and recompose. And if you're shooting at 1.2, 1.4, something like that, like it's just more work. So for me, man, I'm a mirrorless guy, but I still shoot with DSLRs though. I still like DSLRs. And if I'm doing a shoot where, like when I do headshots, for example, I still use DSLRs for headshots because for headshots, I'm typically shooting at f8 anyway. There's not a lot of movement, so it's not a huge deal. And I still like using my DSLRs. But for me, when I use the EOS R, my buddy bought an EOS R, and at this point, at that time, I was just like, I don't, man, this eye auto, like, because Sony when they had that eye autofocus, I will never not, like try to lie. Like I will admit, like I was definitely saying like that's so gimmicky, and everybody's acting like this eye autofocus is something like they just don't know how to focus. They don't know how to use their cameras. Like I definitely was not team eye autofocus. I thought it was a joke. And I thought like Sony cameras were just a joke in general. So when my buddy got that EOS R and I tried it for the first time, and I tried it with my Sigma 35. And that Sigma 35 is like, it's a love-hate relationship on my DSLR because I love it, but the focus, like Sigma glass, and at least with Canon bodies, like, man, they just don't play well together. So I used his R for the first time with my Sigma. And when I went back and looked at the pictures and saw how many of them were tack sharp, I was sold. I think I ordered an EOS R that same day. Because I was just like, if it can take this this lens that I love and convert my keeper rating from, 60% to 90, 95%, pay for itself. What up, V Worldwide? What up, Lynn New? That's my first time ever seeing your username. It's weird seeing it in here. Yeah, so that was that. Okay, man, it's been real. I'm gonna have to get off here because I got some stuff to do. My boy Ryan's about to drop a video. Again, I just want to say seriously from the bottom of my heart, man, thank you guys. Like I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I appreciate, like even in this live right now, like I appreciate y'all literally sitting here listening to me talk about stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like never would I have thought when I started this channel that there would be someone that would just be tuned in to listen to me talk about something and ask questions and listen to my answers. So for real, man, like much appreciated. I really do appreciate y'all. A lot of y'all, man, I see y'all's names all the time. I appreciate it. Yeah. So, hey, have a great weekend. I doubt that I go live before Thanksgiving. So for those that are celebrating Thanksgiving, please have a good Thanksgiving. Be safe. Eat way too much food, and sleep and nap, and then wake up and eat more food. That is key. So have a great weekend. Have a good Thanksgiving. And until the next one, take care. Peace.